SpaceX's Starship, the world's largest rocket, was set to fly to space for the first time last week. It didn't get there.
Everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake.
Most companies wouldn't call a fiery explosion icing on the cake. But for SpaceX, crashes like this are part of a unique learning process that CEO Elon Musk expects will one day bring humans to Mars and help fuel NASA's ambition to return to the moon. Here's why Starship is so important to the future of space travel and what the latest test means for the rocket's future. Musk has been talking about building a spaceship to go to Mars for years. Here he is in 2016.
This is really intended to carry huge numbers of people, ultimately millions of tons of cargo to Mars.
In 2017, he shared the plans for a vehicle that would be both massive and reusable, and would eventually become Starship.
And I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being among the stars.
As a community, this is what we've been working toward and hoping for.
This is Mike Massimino, a former NASA astronaut who worked on the Hubble Space Telescope.
The ability to go and do these things, to go to the moon, to go to Mars, to explore even further. This is the kind of spacecraft that can make that happen.
Starship started to take shape in 2019. First came the Starhopper, a smaller craft used to test engines that would be used on Starship. Musk unveiled an early version of the spacecraft in September that year.
This is, I think, the most inspiring thing that I've ever seen.
Early prototypes of the spacecraft faced challenges. And in order to be reusable, it needed to be able to land, which it couldn't do in flight tests in 2020. But for SpaceX, these crashes weren't necessarily a bad thing. They're part of the trial and error method that SpaceX regularly uses to test new spacecraft.
SpaceX philosophy is more like fail fast, but learn faster. NASA is more like we can't afford to have anything explode while we're learning. we have to be ready to go. It's taxpayers' dollars. We got to get it right.
On March 3rd, 2021, Starship marked a major accomplishment, launching to about 6 miles up and making a landing. But the rocket exploded just after the cameras stopped broadcasting. But just a few months later, a prototype landed and didn't explode.
You can see on the live video, we are down. The Starship has landed.
Starship has taken on an increasingly large role at SpaceX, and not just literally. It's central to the company's future business strategy. Executives have said they want to start launching the spacecraft regularly with Starlink satellites. And it signed a pair of contracts with NASA to develop a variant of Starship that would carry astronauts to the moon. Those deals are worth over $4 billion.
It's certainly what NASA is counting on that's going to get people back to the moon and land on the moon. So it's a key piece of what NASA's trying to do.
By 2021, the rocket's design was coming into focus. It was made up of two parts. The bottom, a 226-foot-tall booster called Super Heavy, which was designed to push the 164-foot-tall spacecraft that may one day carry dozens of passengers out of Earth's atmosphere. Altogether, Starship stands at almost 400 feet tall. In comparison, SpaceX's next largest rocket is just 229 feet tall.
This is the biggest rocket ever made.
And there's a reason for that.
The further you want to go, the more payload you want to take, the more things you want to take, the bigger the rockets you need.
By the end of 2022, SpaceX was preparing for a key test, Starship's first test flight using both parts of the rocket. Musk said the year before that there was a lot of risk associated with a first launch.
So I would not say that it is likely to be successful, but I think we'll make a lot of progress.
And he still wasn't optimistic the day before its initial scheduled launch.
This is not like some sort of train leaving the station at precisely 9:03 a.m. or something like that.
The first attempt, set for April 17th, was postponed due to a frozen valve. Then, 3 days later, SpaceX was ready for liftoff. The plan was for Starship to take off from the launch pad in Texas. The booster would then separate and fall into the Gulf of Mexico as the spacecraft's engines fired and took it on a 90-minute flight. Then, it would come down and crash in the Pacific Ocean. But that's not what happened. Shortly after Starship launched at 9:33 a.m. Eastern, a graphic on the live stream indicated that 3 engines weren't working, with more appearing to go out before the blast. It reached more than 1,300 miles per hour before it started to spin.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning.
The shuttle that was intended to separate from the booster here didn't.
We should have had separation by now. Obviously, this does not appear to be a nominal situation.
After climbing 24 miles, the rocket began to tumble back to Earth. And around 4 minutes into its flight, Starship exploded. SpaceX said a flight termination system was triggered on both the spacecraft and the booster.
And when you have a failure, you learn a lot from that failure. So I think their plan was to test to the point of failure, and then let's learn from that, what we can from that failure so it never happens again.
Minutes after the explosion, the company tweeted that success comes from what we learn. Starship is grounded for now, as the Federal Aviation Administration is overseeing an investigation into what happened during the flight, an agency spokesperson said. But Musk said they'd be testing again in a couple of months.
This is a huge step. If they can get this right, if they can figure out how to do this with such a big rocket, I think it's going to be not just taking people to the moon, but it's going to help us to explore the rest of our solar system and maybe beyond someday. So I'm very excited. I wish I could go. I don't think I'm going anywhere, but I'm really excited for the people that will be going.
What a sight from the ground cameras at Starbase.